Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on here to the latest long range update. It is the 9th of December, already here in 2015. We're closing out the year pretty rapidly here. Hope you're having a Merry Christmas season here, folks. Not a bad day out there across the area at all. Temperatures into the lower 60s, upper 50s around the area. Had some passing clouds come over. We've got one wave moving out. We've got another wave moving in. But overall, really not just a bad day out here at all. This next wave ought to move in later on tonight and give us a few clouds overnight, but you can expect some fairly mild temperatures. We're out of the 40s now, and looks like we're going to say goodbye to the 40s for, well, at least a little while as far as that is concerned. Let's talk about what you're going to expect over the next few days. I want to focus on specifically on the next rain system that's moving in. I know everybody's got big plans just about every December weekend. So let me give you an idea of what you can break down here. No rain really expected much with this today. In fact, you could see as I showed you the radar there, the satellite there, nothing was showing up on radar. A very isolated chance of a shower today, but it's pretty much a moisture-starved system, so that's going to have a hard time coming through. You can see that here in the GFS, and it's showing that maybe just a hint of a few sprinkles here, but otherwise than that, pretty much nothing. That moves off. High pressure takes over for a while. Then you get another storm system that starts to develop, and here we go. By the time Saturday comes, you got low pressure starting to come down out of the Rockies. Now, as this moves on, what you'll see is this start to become more what we call a panhandle hooker. It comes here out of the panhandle of Oklahoma, and then it starts hooking up more towards the north. And in fact, it could be a decent little rainmaker for some folks. And you can see but really, let's back this up and see when the rain comes. Saturday, maybe just some scattered showers out there, is what it's showing across the area there, but nothing too big. The bulk of the precipitation does not come on us until Sunday afternoon, according to the GFS. So it looks like it's going to be a pretty decent weekend overall for Saturday. Sunday afternoon and evening becomes a different story. That's when the rain moves in, certainly Sunday during the overnight. Monday, it looks like it continues on rain before the system starts to pull out. Now, before it does that, we're going to be in record temperature territory. And let me show you that. Just either way, as far as rain, we're looking at rain heavy out to our west, but on the order of an inch and a half around here for the way things are looking. So not a significant thing. Let me talk about temperatures though, because we could be flirting with some record temperatures this weekend. I'm telling you, folks, if you got outdoor plans, man, Saturday is going to be a great day to do that. Doesn't look like the rain will be moved in. As you wake up though tomorrow morning, let's talk about that. You're waking up with temperatures here in the mid 40s around the area. No frost concerns to worry about. That's going to be nice not to have to scrape the car. That comes out, and then you warm up pretty nicely to into the lower 60s for tomorrow around a good chunk of the area. And then as you go into the overnight hours and you wake up on Friday morning, you've not even broke into the 40s. You're talking near 50 for your overnight low. Wow, unheard of. Breaking into the 60s for a high temperature there on Friday. In fact, we'll wake up as we this is showing us waking up here on Saturday morning with the temperatures around 62, 63 degrees, and of course we only get warmer throughout the day, and it looks like we're going to go up to the mid 60s. Is 70 possible with this? I would not be shocked if we can get more sunshine than we do clouds that day, and that's going to be a very touch and go kind of situation, because with the system moving in, we certainly could have more clouds with that warm, moist air advection coming up from the southwest. That's going to lend itself to a partly sunny kind of day. But if we end up being partly sunny more than mostly cloudy, yeah, we could go to the upper 60s and we could end up breaking some records around here. So unheard of. Now, the severe weather potential, that's something we always worry about when we break these records, but no, the severe weather looks like it's going to stay to the south. I don't have it pulled up, but the Storm Prediction Center does have an area well down to the south in the deep south outline for this system, and I agree with that. I don't think there's any really strong chance of severe weather around here. In fact, we may not even get any rumbles of thunder about it. It really looks more just like rain to me, but it's going to be pretty warm overall, so get out there and enjoy the warmth. My forecast for December was for a very warm month, and folks, that's exactly what has panning out so far. That looks like what's going to continue on as well. So we're going to be into that record warmth territory, certainly for the majority of the weekend. By the time Monday comes, temperatures are a much different story. With the rain and the system starting to move out of the area, we're back into the 40s, but that's seasonable weather for around here. That's certainly not cold. Average high temperatures right around 44, 45 degrees this time of the year, so we would just be going back down to a seasonable type of weather. Now, let's talk then, with that in place, let's talk about the longer term of what you can expect. here are the latest the numbers, the teleconnections that we always look at. If we're wanting to look at it and say, is it going to get really cold? Is there going to be any snow potentially in our future? What we want to look at is the indices to see is there even any potential for any of these storm systems to go. And so what you see right now is mass confusion. What you see on the green dashed line, the green line here with all these boxes, this is the ensemble mean, and this is really what we're going to look at. The ensembles over the long term do much better than what we call the control run, which is just a lower resolution version of the deterministic, the operational GFS, in other words. And you can see what it does. It does take the Arctic Oscillation down into negative territory for a little while, but then it moves it right back up. And by the way, the Arctic Oscillation, that is cold air available to be moved down from Canada. It's kind of bottled up and it's ready to be moved if we can get a storm system to just tap into it to bring that cold air down. That's when you get a positive, you get mild, and whenever you get negative, that's whenever you have the chance of being much cooler than normal, and that's not what we see. This has been flipping back and forth, but what you notice is it's not strongly into the negative category. It's only down to -1 on its mean, and there are plenty of ensemble members up here. This is your extremes, the blue lines. Plenty of ensemble members that take it up into here, but the trend is more towards either positive or neutral territory there with the Arctic Oscillation. North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO, you want it to be negative. If you want a blocking pattern, it does dip negative for just a little while before it stays more neutral, so there's not a whole lot of blocking going through, a little bit, but not a whole lot, not a sustained long-term sort of thing here, but those are mixed signals here. A negative AO would be good, a negative NAO would be good. Here's one of the big problems though, the PNA. You need this to be positive in both the control and the ensembles. They're saying nope, stays negative pretty much the entire month. This goes all the way out to Christmas Day. And so yeah, there are some ensemble members individually showing up here that it could go strongly into the positive, but those are the outliers, and that you see it's pretty much in the negative here. So a positive PNA, what a positive PNA, it brings us that cooler weather. It puts a northwest flow on us. Whenever you get the negative PNA, basically what it's saying is that you've got a ridge over us and a trough in the west, and so that does not make it conducive for sustained cold shots at all. Now, there are some positive hints here. What we call the East Pacific Oscillation, the EPO. If you get this strongly negative, you can get some of the other indices to start lining up, and to get some cold shots. The control run is showing that it goes very strongly negative later in the month. The ensemble mean not as much. The Euro model, though, is wanting to indicate that as well. So there's some support that maybe it goes negative as you head out and through here, but that's certainly not something that we will count on. It's something that we'll keep monitoring. Maybe 1 out of the 4 hints that there might be some cooler times ahead as we start to think about closing out the month later on down. But really, that's just too far out to know right now. There's a lot of things that we can look at to say, for example, the Bering Sea rule or some of these other things that you might be hearing about on social media and things. And these things can certainly be helpful to help us know that there could be some storms coming, but they only give us a time frame. If, for example, the Bering Sea rule would basically say, okay, whenever you see this particular storm in the Bering Sea, you know, basically 16 to 21 days later or so in a certain time frame. I don't follow it that much, so I just don't use it. I don't find it that much helpful. But you get a 5-day window or so of when it could be over you here. So if you see a bunch of storms coming into the Bering Sea, that it could be active later in the month, but it doesn't tell you really anything about intensity or what type of precipitation it would be. Long-term forecasting is difficult. We have a hard time nailing down more than a week. So folks, whenever you see me do the long-term forecasting, I'm giving you general trends, but I'm not going to be able to identify you anything specific. What I can say as far as you snow lovers right now is I don't say overly anything promising. One shining glimmer of hope may be that negative EPO if it does indeed go negative, but that is a big guess at this point. We're just going to have to wait to see. And by the way, let me illustrate what that PNA is when it goes negative. Right now, we've got pretty much almost a zonal flow going on. This is the mid-level jet stream, 500 millibar heights winds. This is about 40,000 feet or so up in the air. You can see pretty much zonal flow west going to the east. As we pick up into the month, though, watch, we got a very strong trough develop out to our west. and a strong ridge of high pressure over us. That was what would give us that record warm temperature. You've got this heat ridge down to our south, pumping in the moisture and the flow from the southwest. That builds in those record warm temperatures here. That means the east stays warm and the west stays cold. Now watch this. Yes, we get some storms that transient come through. There is the rainmaker that will come through this weekend. That's going to be followed by yet another storm system that will most likely end up rain, because we stay pretty much on the warm side of this. And watch this. We quickly go into another warm side of it. So we stay far in more of a ridge pattern than what we do a trough pattern. Now there's some indications here. This goes all the way out to right at Christmas Day, and even at Christmas Day on this, it's wanting to indicate a strong trough down there. We're in kind of a ridge, coming out of a ridge over here. So what you see is much more of an above normal type of pattern showing up, not only in the indices that I showed you of the AO and all of that, but you're seeing it right here in the height patterns in the upper heights. So if you're wanting cold, you're wanting snow, December is just not your month. Maybe as we head later in the month, we might see some towards the end of the month, but certainly nothing anytime soon. Nothing more than some passing flurries, maybe on the back side of the system. Let me continue on here with the GFS. After that storm system moves out of here over the weekend, let me show you there's more rain that potentially moves through during the next week before high pressure takes over, and you see more storms come through here. And basically that's exactly what I was showing you, an up and down type of pattern here with those ridges and troughs rotating through, but we stay more in the ridge than we do in the troughs, and that's going to continue on really all through the pattern. If you take a look at the numbers then, here's the raw data from the GFS ensembles, and you see there's that record high warmth. In fact, it's forecasting we could be into the mid 60s here by the weekend. I agree with that. I think that's a very good call before we start to go sharply colder, and by the time we start to more towards the end of the month, well, we still got some 49 showing up, which is well above normal. 42, that's still above normal even there for the ending of the month too. So it's really an above normal pattern all across the board as far as the eye can see on this. I don't see anything signs right now of a sustained cold snap anytime soon. Again, with that EPO going in the negative, that could change some things later on in the month, but it's a pretty good long ways around. So as far as your holiday season is concerned, nothing more than maybe some passing flurries or a light snow shower on the backside of a rain system where these things wouldn't stick is about all that we can hope for. And I'm going to say that most of us probably won't even get that. Now, why is that? Of course, it's El Nino. El Nino is the one that is causing, it's firmly in control. It's causing this above normal December for the most of us. The latest indices show that it's still in extremely strong Super Nino kind of category at a positive 2.669 as the latest value. But you can see, it looks like we may have peaked, and it was forecast to peak here in November and start to declining. You can see those numbers starting to decline a little bit. So we'll see. Possibly this is peaked. The forecast for El Nino, by the way, is to show that it's peaked, and it will strongly start to go into the negative as we head towards through the winter months. That's why I think if you viewed my winter forecast that I put out back in October, the second half of winter I think becomes a lot colder than the first half of winter. It's going to be a backloaded kind of winter, and so we very well may end up getting some cold and snow coming, but probably not until closer towards February. It looks like most of winter is going to stay mild overall. Now, here's that El Nino right now, but here's another thing I want to just sort of end with this. Be very it's still a very impressive looking El Nino, but let's look at the temp change over the past 7 days, and what you see is we're starting to get a little bit cooler out here. That's at declining, but watch this right over here in the region closer to South America. What the warm water is doing is starting to move more towards the east, and what we're seeing is this region start to warm up just a little bit. Now, this is what we don't want. If you want a snowy winter, you do not want this region warm. Will this region eventually decline? Will it get warmer? Well, that's something that we're going to have to monitor. If it continues to get warmer, that'll burn about every outlook out there for the winter, and we'll have the winter that wasn't in the eastern United States. This is going to have to cool off significantly as well. So right now, El Nino, even though it's cooling, very firmly in control, and that is exactly why you see the mild temperatures as far as the eye can see. I see no sign of that letting up. Even the negative EPO that's coming probably isn't going to stay negative forever. Right now, things just look more like a very transient kind of nature to me rather than anything sustained and long-term. But nonetheless, a very active weather pattern pattern setting up. Plenty of rainstorms to roll through as we go throughout, so there's a lot to track, but keep it right tuned here to Southern Indiana weather. We'll take it one storm at a time and not, of course, hype anything up to be bigger than it is for you folks. Don't believe in doing that right now. Just don't see the sustained long-term cold, so just enjoy the warm while we've got it. It's probably not going to last all winter long. There will be some cold snaps, so enjoy these record temps and 60s while we've got them. I know I certainly will. That's it, folks. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite. Thanks for logging on here to the latest long-range forecast update. Take care.